This came across my feeds and I thought, what? I was very, very confused. There's a game that's called I Am Jesus Christ that was just released and it seems like it's getting a good reception. I came here because I couldn't believe the title. That is me. This low key might be the most wild gamer ranks notification I've ever gotten. That exactly, dude. I could not believe my eyes. I thought it was a troll. I thought I was April Fools. I thought something was going on. I was so confused. I just had to click it. Multiple endings would go crazy on this game. Multiple endings, happy ending, good ending, neutral bad ending. Oh, that would be insane actually. No way. If you do that, might be fun, but make your own story because you have to pay respects to the king. Saying spoiler free on Good Friday is next level humor. Spoiler free. If you ever get lost, you can find the guide of this game in a 1,000-page book. Oh my god. I'm literally looking. I have my guidebook already right here. I have my guidebook in hand. Oh shit. I have to. I have my guidebook in hand. Okay. So I have not really seen much of this. Again, it was a total surprise out of left field. But I thought, I watched about a minute of it, maybe two, and I thought it looks, and especially seeing the reception, it looks like they did a good job on it. And it looks like they actually tried to make a real game paying respect to the story that Christians would want to play, which is awesome. I see this as a good step towards the movement, in contrast to what happened with King Charles, which is clearly on the other side. We've lost him. We've lost King Charles, but we didn't really want him, to be honest. I didn't want him. It's up to the big G. It's up to top G. But let's say, let's see this before you buy of I Am Jesus Christ. This should be fun. Should be really, really fun.
And we're back with another episode of Before You Buy. That show where we give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. As usual, it's me, Jake, and today we're talking about I Am Jesus Christ. Now, this was a game that was revealed quite a few years ago with kind of a cinematic concept trailer. We mentioned it in our news show. It definitely got people talking. A lot of people memeing on it like, LOL, how could you make a game where you play as Jesus?
That's what you would think, right? That's what you would think. I think it could have been that. I'm glad that they didn't take it in that direction and decided to try to deliver on a story.
How does that even work? Well, they stuck with it, and now the game is out. So our curiosity got the best of us. We really wanted to check this out. Ultimately, this game is a really good case study. It shows that people want a game like this. I mean, look at the reception, look at the Steam reviews. People want to see their religion, these stories, in video game form. And I'd say, for me, like, not just Jesus, but I'd like to see other religions get this type of thing too. But this game gives it an honest shot, but with a really small team and budget. It really kind of left me wanting more. It is rough. It's pretty janky, but it proved to me that as crazy
Those eyes, those eyes. Okay, that's. I think there's gonna be limits, of course, with the team, their experience, and the budget, and there was a risk for sure. But again, it seems due to receptions, I'm pretty sure that they did a good job. And hey, having janky eyes like that doesn't mean it's a bad game. Remember, video games are meant to be fun. You can have varying degrees of visual quality and fidelity, and different levels of fun. Just because something looks very, very good doesn't mean it's actually be gonna be fun to play. Let's see some more.
As it sounds, the story of Jesus can actually work in video game form. Because, I mean, like, it's a little dull, the presentation is awkward, and it's short, but it's done in earnest here. And I give them a lot of credit for trying. And I definitely think, like, some theology heads or even historians or people of the faith are going to enjoy some of this. I'm just looking at this and critiquing or evaluating it as a game, and all this footage is captured running on PC. And I would usually say spoiler free. It's not really spoiler free because I think
Spoiler free, bro.
people know what
Fucking
happens at the
funny.
end. But look, going into this, you really, and I mean really, need to set your expectations. All right, this is a $15 Steam game. The launch price is actually $13. That's what I got it for. It's like 5 hours long, and it was made by about 5 people. They're pretty upfront about this on the store page listing, at least, but you certainly feel the small team, and it really feels like a first attempt. But you start out, you wake up as Jesus, you go outside, and you start
Wait, you actually played the game and you see God? Is that what you're telling me? I'm a little confused. Like Left 4 Dead. Yeah, Left 4 Dead. You need some mods for that.
looking for John the Baptist. And then from there, you go through the story of Jesus all the way up to
Oh yeah, yeah. You're talking about the visual point I was making for sure. Yeah, I think we're on the same page about that.
his crucifixion. And this is a first person exploration adventure. It's kind of walking simulator, but I would say it's a bit more involved than that because the map is surprisingly big. You know, you have the Sea of Galilee, all the surrounding areas, Nazareth, Jerusalem.
I think if you're a follower of the faith, this might be a way to explore it because I'm sure that if you're going out playing as Jesus and you're giving out uh, these lectures, and it might give you some insight into the parables, especially if you haven't been as exposed to it. I mean, nothing's gonna be good as the source material, right? Nothing's gonna beat the source material, but this is a good way to grow your faith.
And essentially, you wander from place to place, performing miracles and doing missions for your apostles. First, you have to kind of progress and gather the apostles, and then you
Ah, yeah, the eyes are funny, man. The eyes are so funny.
look at them on a menu, click on their missions, go to their mission point, and engage in whatever story mission that is, which typically is something from the Bible. The game is
The wine manager, of course, of course.
very dialogue heavy with a lot of characters speaking to you. You encounter Mary, Joseph, the apostles, and a few others, and you're guided through the story by speaking to them.
This is awesome, actually. The bride or groom will be very disappointed. This is awesome. You get to be in the sandals himself of the great man himself and make the water turn to wine. That's awesome. Wow. I would be more interested in Jesus' quest and times in the Forbidden Lands. Yeah, right. You're talking about like the books that aren't included in the standard edition. Yeah, you have to search out some some pretty wild stuff, actually. But hey, I think humanity, hear me out. Humanity as a whole is having a spiritual refresh. I think a lot of people are starting to turn to spirituality. Maybe the statistics show something different. I have a sneaking suspicion it's going to sneak up on people. There's a lot of people on the offense, like we just reviewed with Keems Charles, and there's going to be a lot of people who start standing their ground, standing their ground for what it means to be a Christian, and what kind of values you want to uphold throughout life. I learned things more about the meanings to stories. Yeah, that's what it's about. It's about learning the meaning to the stories. Not everything um you're gonna get the first time, you know, but you give it a few goes and you'll definitely pick up the meanings. It's funny this all comes up now, all in God's time, but I was actually planning to do a reading for stream. I had a section in my YouTube, like a playlist of good reads, and I wanted to do some readings of Matthew from the Gospel. Maybe I'll do that one of these upcoming streams. Let's see some more of this game, though. I'm very interested. I've never seen anything like this. I'm glad it's getting good reception, though.
As well as getting the occasional
Hopefully, we
cutaway
get
to an actual
more
biblical
people.
narration. These narrative sequences often show kind of cutscene style moments that are like shockingly low resolution, but they help move the story forward ahead, even though sometimes they repeat what you actually do in game. So it feels like parts of the story are actually being told to you twice. Either way, where the game really succeeds and how it finds its charm is where it feels like an old school edutainment game. You know, kind of like one of those old school computer games that are focused around education first rather than actual video gameness. It has video game elements, which I'll get to in a little bit, but it leans into just being really enthusiastic about telling these stories, highlighting these big moments from the Bible. It does this through the character dialogue, those kind of interstitial narrations I mentioned before, but also the ability to find things in the environment that then you can look up in a codex and read a little bit more, not even just about the Bible, but the history of the world during that time. As you progress through the adventure, Jesus essentially gains his abilities. The ability to resurrect people, bring them back from the dead, heal people, as well as transfiguration or transforming things, and doing exorcisms. He actually has an ability wheel where you select these abilities from. Along with that, he also has like a detective mode vision. It's like his faith vision where he has some precognition or whatever where you can essentially identify objects in the environment. Now, a lot of these abilities are all over the place. Some of them feel like wasted potential. Others feel pretty simple. Like I like healing people where you look at their bodies, you click on their wounds, and they disappear. It's simple, but it works. But other things like
Yeah, there's not going to be much of a challenge in this game, I'm sure. I think really it's just a narrative, a storytelling device. But again, that's okay. It's meant to help people grow their faith. Um, and I see this as a good sign. If they made a good game here, not perfect at all by any means, but they made a good game, I'm sure someone else with more money, more time, more experience is going to come in and do it better. Actually, it would be awesome to play a VR video game and experience um, the story of Jesus. For example, um, there's a movie called The Passion of the Christ where we see the last moments of the good man himself. It would be so cool to be there in VR. And actually, there's some people that think that the the Pope and his little group actually has a device that allows them to do exactly that. The chronovision, I think.
resurrecting people, bringing people back to life, curing people of paralysis, that type of thing involves engaging in a really, really frustrating, annoying little half-baked mini game where you trace a path. And that's pretty much all the game has for that whole thing. And then when you're exercising demons, it's a matter of looking at someone, using your ability, and then it activates a mini game where you're thrown into an arena where you run around and you have to kind of zap spirits and then drag those spirits through a portal to exorcise these demons. It gets repetitive really quickly and it just feels pretty simple and half-baked. But hey, it works. It gets the job done. With the big moments of the Bible and how you do them in this game, some of them are disappointingly simple, like turning water into wine. All you really do is click on the water and then it turns into wine. I'm not kidding. But on the other hand,
Yeah, I don't know. Again, I don't know. I don't expect this game to be very exciting or challenging. I think it's just a storytelling device.
like walking on water. You just start walking out onto the water. Or building a house with the apostles. Those little moments feel pretty cool, and they feel very respective of the story of Jesus and all that. Doing these main things, these big moments from the Bible consist of your main objectives, but you also have these mini side objectives where you can explore the, again, surprisingly big map, kind of just wandering around, sprinting from town to town, although there is fast travel, but it's a lot of just sprinting in a straight line. Thankfully, Jesus has infinite stamina because, he's Jesus. But you find historical items in the environment to learn more about just the time period. You can also find special points where Jesus would teach. Then when you click on those, you get a little excerpt from the Bible, the words of Jesus. You learn a little something. You can also find random people out in the world that need help, people who need an exorcism, or, you can cure people of their diseases.
I like that idea. Trivia, like add little quizzes, but it's not meant to. Maybe if they add this in like catechism school or something.
Or
I
ailments.
think this
Doing
is
all these
just on
things, you can earn
Steam for
points,
11
and all
bucks.
these points contribute to a bunch of trees that are kind of like checklists, where the more of these items that you check off, the more doing this, like healing 5 people, etc., earn you more followers, which earns you more faith points, which is kind of like Jesus's expendable mana, so to speak. Using his abilities drains the faith, but you can easily refill this at any point by just holding a button where Jesus will pray and then the number goes back up. It's really, really simple. It doesn't force you to worry about it too much. It's very, very casual, but it does a solid job of, being a Jesus simulator, making you feel like you're really Jesus, wandering from town to town, finding people, helping people, gaining more followers. You're healing people, you're freeing out.
Hmm. Hello, Wonder. I think you might be onto something, but there also might be a bit of a misunderstanding because people turned on Jesus Christ, even his followers. There was a small group, right? Like like his mom, of course, and there was another Mary. There's a small group who I think they never really turned, or but there's a stories of people denying him. Oh, wow. I don't know, it'd be tough. It'd be tough to experience it. Even just seeing the movies, I feel something. But I think it's a powerful tool, and that's what I like about it. It's a way to help you grow your faith, which is never a bad thing.
Animals, you're flipping over merchant tables, you're actually debating the Pharisees and like these like little question and answer quiz mini
I wonder
games.
how
I was
this
actually
game handles
surprised
that part.
how much of these I got right,
I
but it's
really
ultimately
wonder
all
how the
pretty
game
simple.
handles
Like
the
I
end.
said, you're going from place
Maybe
to
he'll go
place,
over it.
either just sprinting down a long barren path or eventually fast traveling from point to point, progressing through all the key moments of the Bible. It's very straightforward, it's very simple, but the game does show some creative juice, some real creativeness to it during certain sequences, like the trials of Jesus, in the wilderness, as well as the Garden of Gethsemane. The garden in particular, a very key point in this story, is fleshed out in a way that I thought was pretty creative and pretty cool. Plus, you actually encounter Satan at certain points in this game, and I think they did a good job, like establishing him as a really intriguing, solid villain. My only issue with a lot of this stuff comes down to the voice acting. There is a lot of dialogue in this game. Obviously, from the sections of the game that narrates moments of the Bible, it like reads passages of the Bible to all the apostles you speak with and you learn about everything. It is a dialogue heavy game, and it feels like almost all of it is AI generated.
Wife!
Peter, I am glad you are home, but I am worried about my mother.
What has happened?
She has been burning with fever for days. Nothing helps. She grows weaker with each hour.
Now, they were pretty upfront on the Steam store page listing. They said, hey, we're a small team, small budget, so we have AI voices. But I gotta say, for one of the few rare, like Bible-driven story games, you couldn't find some enthusiastic volunteers to do the voices, because I really think the AI voices are a complete downer for this game. They're very robotic and kind of shifting, like, falling into different accents here and there, like very inconsistent AI voices really, really crater any emotion you could possibly have with this game. Any emotional moment in this game, any beautiful revelation or cool bit, none of it hits because the voices are so robotic. Again, I understand they're a small team, no budget, but I really wish they could have gotten some volunteer voice actors to at least give it their best shot, because I still think that would have done better.
I think, yeah, again, I'm still happy that the game was made because it might inspire someone with more experience and budget to go ahead and do that. At least they paid their respects to the story. so I'm not holding it against it.
Than these voices. My only other issue is I know they worked on this game for a long time, but pacing wise, it does feel like it steamrolls pretty fast through some key moments of this story. One of the easiest examples to point to is the crucifixion. It's a very simple sequence where you basically just walk in a straight line for a while, and all the stuff just happens at you. The game really takes its time in earlier moments and smaller moments, but I was really hoping the big moments would be fleshed out and portrayed in interesting and compelling ways, but unfortunately, a lot of it felt a little rushed. Like I said at the start, I finished the
And that's kind of funny. As supposed to be Heaven's Gate. I mean, they tried, right?
game in just under 5 hours, but because the open world
Oasis
is
and
surprisingly
Miracles.
big and all these little towns have things to find and people to cure, if you want to like completionist run it or you want to 100% it, you could probably get a little bit more time out of it. There is stuff to do. It may not be the most exciting or thrilling video game wise, but you might learn a little something. And yeah, even though I had my issues, like I have a lot of criticisms of the game, I still stuck with it. I was compelled enough to play through and just see how video game
How long
developers
is it?
put the story
How
of
many
Jesus in
hours?
video game form. It was a real curiosity of mine, a real fascination of mine, and it was interesting to see play out. So
2 to
again,
4
I would say
hours?
go in with your expectations well set, really understanding that this is a low budget, kind of rushed, weird, janky experience that is also an enthusiastic one, and one that tries, and one that is passionate about the subject matter. Again, I think hardcore theologians or practitioners of this faith will get more out of it, and still, I'm just happy that there is some representation here. Because again, even though like I have like the critic game reviewer faults of this game, look at Steam reviews. It seems like people are just happy to have something. And to go back to my point in the intro, I think that's where this game really succeeds. Because when you get past the Oblivion faces, the really rough graphics, and the downright awful AI voices, this still manages to prove that, you know, the story of Jesus actually can make for a pretty interesting video game. I saw through it. I saw through all the bad parts of this game just because I was really interested in the story and I was curious of this once it clicked with me as kind of like an education type of game. Look, if it's
Right,
not your
right.
cup of tea, it's not going to be your cup of tea. But for religious folks or people who just appreciate theology, which I certainly do, you know, maybe you can get a little something out of this. I'd like to see what this studio does next. I would love for them to do like a kind of redux of this game where they can really flesh out a lot of these concepts. But again, I look at this game,
I really hope that the studio that made Black Myth Wukong, the Black Myth studio, picks this story up and does it. I doubt it. No, they're a Chinese company focused on storytelling for Chinese mythological legends and creatures and all that. Uh, but they did justice, right? They did justice by the story of Wukong, an ancient story beloved by many, and they found a great way to expose a whole new audience to it in the form of video games. They're also doing with there's a new Black Myth IP coming up soon. So I nominate them. If anyone with a big budget and experience is gonna pick this project up, it's gotta be them.
Jesus Christ as a solid case study. You can make a game about Jesus Christ or really any other religious figure, and it doesn't have to be goofy or corny. There can actually be something interesting there. It's just really going to need the time and budget and development team to really back it up next time. But hey, that's a before you buy. You know how this goes by now. I give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion, and now I want to hear yours down in the comments. Are you one of the people that were just waiting for a Jesus Christ video game experience? Are you a avid follower of the Bible, or are you a complete atheist that was just curious? I'd love to know your perspective either way. This was a fun one, but a very different and kind of tricky one to talk about. It's not usually my department, but thanks if you gave us a watch. We really appreciate it. Clicking the like button helps us out. If seeing
All right, that's awesome. I want to do a quick peek here at the Steam page for it. Walk in the footsteps of Jesus in this immersive first person storytelling of his life from baptism to the resurrection. Wow. Wow. Actually, I'm very curious how the lashing and that whole part goes. Wow. Experience the story of the Messiah and I am Jesus Christ. It just came out a couple days ago, April 2nd, 2026. Developer Spaceboat Studios. Looks like they have a handful of games. I haven't played any of their games. They're all pretty kind of low budget. But really, I was more curious about wow. So this guy says not recommend. He's got 1.4 hours. That Jesus himself says do not recommend. Whoa, okay, careful now. Shark Seed, radical leftist RPG where you play as a jobless socialist who teaches freedom and love. Yeah, it's all relative and by your perspective. Jesus was one of the most dangerous people in the world ever. He caused a whole lot of trouble for a whole lot of people. This game tries to be faithful representation of the Bible narrative as much as possible while trying to fill the gaps between the texts. Much of the dialogue between Jesus and his disciples, I suspect, were imaginings of how they must have communicated apart from what is written in the Bible. I think they included as much of the major events in Jesus' life and ministry, and at least in that aspect, it's quite commendable. Okay. The gameplay was pretty much, yeah, pretty simple, which is what I expected, which is why I was able to finish the whole game in 5 hours. It's a 5 hour game. Okay. There are mini games all throughout, which I guess add some flavor to the game. Most of the mini games were easy and somewhat helps to not make the game so stale, since this is a part open world and part story driven. Uh, the mini games in between makes it less boring. I mean, they had to fill it up. They're asking for your money. They're asking for people's money. So I think it makes sense they add a few mini games here and there to fill it out. Um, Free people's minds. I want to read this negative one by Jesus. The gospel according to disappointment. Wow, this is a long one. Maybe not so long. Verily I say unto thee, I have endured the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. Yet even that trial was less taxing than playing this game. Okay. For this creation bearing my name is vain. Uh, its voices are not of man, nor of spirit, but of crude art. Oh, good point. That is a point he would bring up because he represents the human spirit. Very big point. They should honestly they should have tried, even if it was their own voice and they just had to cover their nose to make it sound a little different. They should have tried. Soulless imitations wrought by careless AI. They shifted they shift without reason. One moment a man speaketh, the next he is another entirely. Truly, even demons keep better consistency. The words spoken do not match the words within. The tongue goeth one way, the text another, as though the game itself knoweth not what it speaketh. At times it uttereth things not even found in its own captions, like a prophet lost in his own message. Okay, that's pretty bad. Pretty bad points, I guess. Keep reading. It is confusion without purpose, noise without meaning, and the tasks slow. They repeat endlessly, like a punishment rather than a calling. This is no miracle. It is monotony. I say unto you, play only the demo, and you shall see all that needeth to be seen. For beyond it lies no revelation, only further suffering. This is not a labor of love. This is not a faithful work. This is a hollow idol, forged of poor craft and false promise. And as I once overturned the tables of the marketplace, so too would I cast this title out, that the store may be cleansed of such sin. Repent, for they for thy refund window is limited. Amen. Repent, repent, for thy refund window is limited. Yeah, I think this would be better with the machinery religion with AI voice with Warhammer. Oh, I love Warhammer. Okay. You know what? I don't know. Luckily, I have the guide I could just read on my own. But well, we'll see, it was on the news. I definitely wanted to just give it a quick look see.